And you can see the comments and all that. It's waiting up for you.
Yeah, that's the last comment.
Sure.
All right, I'm muted. Let's get it.
Now, you're gonna turn down your music. As you count down, you're gonna turn down your music. On your Mac, bro. I don't repeat myself 50 million times.
You got a 5-second count?
10 seconds, bro. 10 seconds.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We good?
All right, shalom, shalom,
Good.
Israel.
All right, shalom,
Christ bless us.
Israel.
Officer Jez here.
Most High Christ blessings. Officer Jez here.
We are back
Officer
with
Mishael.
another,
And we're
another
we're
class,
back with another
Monday night class,
class,
the
Monday
history
night
of
class,
Roman
history of the Roman captivity, part 4. Part 4. So as you know,
what
I've
we
been
were
going through the things, what we were going through during the Roman captivity, during the Roman captivity,
and showing how the Roman captivity,
and showing how
actually
the Roman captivity
parallels with what we're going through
actually
today.
Parallels with what we're
So
going
the
through
things that
today.
we're going through today, we was actually going through back then. Nothing new under the sun. Now I brought out a couple of points last week about give me Acts 18 and 2. Can y'all hear me? If you can hear me, type Y. If you can hear me, type Y. If you cannot hear us, type N.
Acts 13.
All right. All praises, all praises. So they ain't hear nothing I said before. Oh, okay. All right. So like I said before, we still going through the history of the Roman captivity. This is part 4. This is our 4th part. Like I said, starting from part 1 up to now, as you see, the history parallels the history of us being in Rome and in the Roman captivity actually parallels what we're going through today. Okay, so I brought out a couple of points last week, and I just want to clear up some things. I know there's a couple of points, couple of pages I brought out, and I want to clarify those pages. So let's get Acts 18 and 2 first.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 18, verse 2. And found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome.
Read that again for me.
And found a certain Jew named Aquila.
So there was a certain brother, certain Israelite named Aquila. Go ahead.
Born in Pontus, lately come from Italy.
Born in Pontus, which is in Italy, lately came from Italy. Go ahead.
With his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews
So
to depart.
hold on. Claudius was the emperor at that time. So Claudius was the emperor. Now he commanded that we what?
Had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome.
Now, I read this last week, so that he commanded all Jews to depart from Rome. Now, I made the statement that the reason that he did that was there was a tumult going on with us when we was teaching on the streets. Okay, there was an uprising, an uproar when we was teaching on the streets. So what happened is they decided to disband all of us. We was causing so much of a uproar against us teaching and the people and our people that didn't believe, just like today. All right, so give me the page, page 18. Page 18 of early Christian. We got that page, right? All right. Pull that up. Nah, that's good. Go down. Oh, he's about the name. All right, start up at the third paragraph. Then
most probably, he left Rome when the decree of the Emperor Claudius.
Hold on. Start up. Go up. Start at the writer of this study.
The writer of this study has no doubt whatever that the teaching of the vast majority of the Roman Catholic writers on this point is strictly accurate, and that S. Peter, at a comparatively early date.
So S. Peter is Saint Peter. So that's the Apostle Peter. Go ahead.
Probably
Saint Peter. So that's the Apostle Peter. Go ahead.
Probably somewhere about the year of grace, 42 to 3. Came to Rome confirmed in the faith, taught, strengthened with his own blessed memories of his adored master.
So it's saying that Peter was the first one to go to Rome and teach the brothers there. He the one that opened the door in Rome.
The little band of Christians already dwelling in the capital of the empire. Under his pious training.
Before Peter came, there was already a band of us that was already in the truth. Okay. We kept we was in the truth and we came together. Okay, so that's why I'm saying a little band of Christians that was already there. All right, go ahead.
Under his pious training, the little band in the 6, 7, or 8 years of his residence in their midst became the strong nucleus of the powerful Church of Rome.
So the church that Paul, what they saying here, the church that Paul visits when he writes to the Romans, the book of Rome, the book of Romans in the New Testament, that's who he writing to. So they're telling you that, look, it started with a little band of Christians at first. That's how it started. And then it said in the 6, 7, and 8 years of his residence there, it became a strong, powerful church. Okay, it became big enough to be an actual congregation now. All right, read on.
Then, most probably, he left Rome when the decree of the Emperor Claudius, AD 49.
So that's what we read out of Acts 18 and 2. Acts 18 and 2 happened in 49 AD. Read it from the top again.
Then, most probably, he left Rome when the decree of the Emperor Claudius, AD 49, was promulgated. The decree, which was the result of the disturbances among the turbulent Jewish colony.
So guess what? The turbulent Jewish colony was in the hood. That's the Jewish colony, which they call what? The ghettos. So that's where we was teaching at. That's where the disturbances was. Go ahead.
Disturbances, no doubt owing to bitter and relentless opposition.
Wait. Disturbances, no doubt owing to bitter and relentless opposition. Go ahead.
To the fast spreading of the Christian faith in their midst.
Niggas was out hating us, man. Just like today. While we was out on the street teaching, we had opposition against from our people. Said disturbances, no doubt owing to bitter and relentless opposition to the fast spreading of the Christian faith in their midst. Okay, so our own people became our enemies. Just like today, man. Okay, they were the main ones that was opposing us while we was teaching them, trying to bring them into the truth. And what happened? Because what was the results of it? We got banished, and that's what we read out. Read Acts 18 and 2 again.
Acts chapter 18, verse 2. And found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome, and came unto them.
See that? So Acts 18 and 2 was the result of the disturbances that was going on in Rome in the in the Jewish colonies that we were living in. Okay. All right. So drop that. Let's move on. Let's get into the different sects that rose up during that time. The different sects that rose up during that time period. All right. First, give me Acts 17 and 18.
It's the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 18. Mm-hmm. Then certain philosophers of the Epicureans.
So certain philosophers of the who?
Of the Epicureans.
Of the Epicureans. Go ahead.
And of the Stoics.
And of the Stoics. Go ahead.
Encountered him. And some said.
Encounter Paul. Read.
And some said, what will this babbler say? Others, some, he seemeth to be a setter forth of strange gods, because he preached unto them Jesus and the resurrection.
Right, because it said because he preached Jesus and the resurrection. Okay, so they call Paul a babbler. All right. Now, give me the page from Christian Church, page 78. So who were the Epicureans? Who were the Stoics? So let's get into who they were. Because our people, we were following these different sects that was out, these different philosophers. We was into these different philosophies just like we're into them today. Today you got the Egyptologists, you got the 5%ers, you got the who else? Help me out. You still got the Black Panther movement.
Right.
Black Panther, the new Black Panther movement that's still out.
Nation of Islam.
Yeah, you got the Nation of Islam that's still around. You have even dealing with even in Christianity, you have different. It's broken up into different denominations.
Right.
You got the Catholic, the Roman Catholicism. You have Seventh-day Adventist, disadvantage.
Yep.
Who else?
Jehovah's Wickedness.
You got Jehovah's Wickedness. You got Baptist, Methodist.
Episcopal.
Same thing, man. Same thing. All right. So let's get into that. You got it? Go down. And this right here is a very good book. So this is explained. This is going into where Paul traveled. All right. So you can start at Athens.
Athens, styled by general consent the seat of the Muses, once the first city of Greece in every point of view, and though it had at this time passed the zenith of its political splendor, it was still as famous for learning as it had ever been. For at the time Paul visited it, the city was full of philosophers.
So Athens, Greece. The city was full of philosophers. Go ahead.
Rhetoricians, orators, painters, poets, statuaries, and of young men who resorted thither to be taught philosophy and the liberal sciences.
So if you wanted to learn how to be a deep dummy, you went to Athens. That's where you went to.
The so-called cradle of civilization.
The so-called cradle of civilization. All right. Why? Because remember, give me that. Give me first Mac. Give me Maccabees. Was it 4? Being in all things.
Yep.
Understand, we wanted to be like them in all things. So understand, we are learning Greek philosophy now. Learning Greek philosophy, you're learning under. They had their so-called philosophers such as Plato and Socrates and Aristotle and so forth. So that's who all this philosophy came from. The Greek philosophy. Go ahead, read that.
This is the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 4, verse. We can start at verse 13.
Yeah, go ahead.
2 Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 13.
Read.
Now such was the height of Greek fashions, and increase of heathenish manners, through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch and no high priest.
So Jason was a Negro. Go ahead.
That the priests had no courage to serve any more at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise.
So the place of exercise, of course, today, that would be your gymnasiums. The word gym means naked. So guess what we were doing? Exercising naked. That's how the Greeks got down. And since we were following that crap, that's what we was doing. Okay? You got your Planet Fitness, you got your LA Fitness and so forth and so on. We was in those places during this time naked.
Mm-hmm.
Read.
After the game of discus called them forth, not setting by the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all.
So we didn't give a damn about our forefathers, Moses, Samuel, David, okay, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Isaiah. We ain't care anything about our forefathers anymore. Joshua, All right? We dropped all of that. Everything that our fathers went through for us, we dropped all of that and decided to follow the heathen. Decided to go play some sports. Okay, read.
By reason whereof sore calamity came upon them.
And because of that, the Most High brought sore calamity upon us. Sore calamity. Read.
For they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose custom they followed so earnestly, and unto whom they desired to be like in all things.
So we are reading about that here in this book right here. Okay, desire to be like in all things, even their philosophy, their religion, their fashion, their customs, celebrating their holidays.
Yep.
You see this going on today, man. It's going on right now.
Yes, sir.
Same thing. The history is parallel. All right, let's go back to the book. Athens. You go back to Athens. Read.
All right. Athens, styled by general consent, the seat of the Muses. Once the first.
The seat of the Muses, meaning what? The seat of entertainment. All right, go ahead.
Once the first city of Greece in every point of view. And though it had at this time passed the zenith of its political splendor, it was still as famous for learning as it had ever been. For at the time Paul visited it, the city was full of philosophers, rhetoricians, orators, painters, poets, statuaries, and of young men who resorted thither to be taught philosophy and the liberal sciences.
Damn. Hey, kind of remind me of like a major city. I'm thinking of like a Philly, Chicago, or something that, you know, like a major city you would go to for like well, not Philly. Philly, you ain't going to Philly for no.
New
Yeah,
York.
like New York. Yeah, I can't go to Philly for learning, man. Sorry.
Oh, man.
Read on.
Pausanias says that there were more images in Athens than in all Greece besides, and that they worshipped.
Let me get the next page. Blow it up.
And that they worshipped the gods more than all Greece did. No place could possibly afford a greater fund of speculation and amusement to a curious mind than Athens. Temples.
So they had all types of amusement for you there.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you was looking for, whether it was learning or entertainment, any type of amusement, whatever, Athens had it.
That's definitely Manhattan.
Yeah, it's like a Manhattan. It's like, you know what I mean? Yeah, like a New York. Go ahead.
Temples, altars, statues, historical memorials, living philosophers of various sects.
Temples, altars, statues, historical memorials, and living philosophers of various sects. Go ahead.
The works of the learned of every age, a confluence of the most polite and literary persons from various countries, all indulging the luxury of learned leisure, were objects that must at once have obtruded themselves upon the apostles' notice.
Right, read.
Nor was he incapacitated, either by defect of natural taste or of education, from relishing the beauties or appreciating the value of such things. He had enjoyed a liberal education, had read their poets, and we have repeated instances of his quoting striking passages from them.
So that's going into when Paul, I forgot, I think it's in Acts 17. Get that real quick. Acts 17. He did quote one of the, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep, verse 28.
Yeah, read that.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 28. For in him we live and move and have our being, as certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring.
How did Paul know that? Paul read, he was reading those poets. Paul read about Aristotle and
Epimenides is who he quoted there.
Epimenides. Okay, so that's who Paul was quoting. So remember, Paul was a man of learning, so he understood where they was coming from. Read that part again. Nor was he incapacitated.
either by defect of natural taste or of education, from relishing the beauties or appreciating the value of such things. He had enjoyed a liberal education.
So saying that Paul had enjoyed a liberal education, go ahead.
Had read their poets.
And as you read in the scriptures, he did read their poets. Okay, go ahead.
And we have repeated instances of his quoting striking passages from them. But in Paul the Christian predominated over the philosopher and the critic.
Right. So the truth was in Paul, and that predominated over the wicked philosophers and the critics that was around at that time. Go ahead. Even though he did read their poets and so forth. He knew what they was quoting. He knew what they was talking about. But the following Christ is what predominated over those philosophies. Okay, go ahead.
He plainly saw that with all their advantages, they lacked the one thing needful, the knowledge of the true God, and the enjoyment of his life-giving favor, without which all their luxury was but splendid misery.
Right. All their luxury but splendid misery. Why? Because they was gonna die. You know, if they didn't believe on Christ, they was going to die. So what was the point of all the luxury they had at that time? They were just some deep dummies, man, with no knowledge of the Most High.
Yep.
Go ahead.
It's to live as Christ and to die as gain.
Right.
Having carefully surveyed the city, Paul found the inhabitants were almost wholly devoted to idolatry.
Highly devoted. Almost wholly devoted.
Wholly devoted to idolatry.
Right. So when Paul visited Athens, he seen that the whole entire city was devoted to idolatry. Go ahead.
And he therefore sent an urgent request to Silas and Timothy, who were still at Berea, to come to him with all possible expedition. Finding a synagogue of the Jews, his first object was to dispute with them, and with the Gentiles proselyted to their religion. And after that, with such of the idolatrous inhabitants as he met with in the marketplace.
So Paul was teaching on the streets when he went to Athens. Understand, when it says, having carefully surveyed the city, Paul found the inhabitants were almost wholly devoted to idolatry. And he therefore sent an urgent request to Silas and Timothy. While he sent a request to Silas and Timothy, like, yo, come over here. We about to go out in the streets. We about to bring this word out to these brothers out here. To come to him with all possible expedition. Finding the synagogue of the Jews, his first object was to dispute with them. Okay? Debate with them. Go ahead.
And with the Gentiles proselyted to their religion. And after that, with such of the idolatrous inhabitants as he met with in the marketplace.
Read.
The apostle was soon attacked by some of the philosophers belonging to two of their most renowned sects.
Okay, here we go. This is where I want to get to. Read.
Vis-a-vis the Epicureans.
The Epicureans.
And the Stoics.
Who were they? Read.
The Epicureans are said to have ascribed neither creation nor providence to God.
So they were atheists pretty much. They ain't believe in no creation. They ain't believe in no God. Go ahead.
But held that the world was made by a casual conflux of atoms.
That sounds like the Big Bang.
Yep.
That's the Big Bang theory. So now you see that Big Bang, what's that whole evolution thing?
Yep.
That's an Epicurean doctrine. Go ahead.
That the gods, if there were any, were of human...
They said that the gods, if there were any, go ahead.
Were of human shape, who lay lolling...
Wait. Read this part slow.
That the gods, if there were any, were of human shape.
Okay, read.
Who lay lolling upon the clouds in ease and indolence.
You remember them? You see them pictures, Michelangelo and the little babies with the wings, they on the clouds and so forth.
Yep.
That's come from the Epicurean philosophy.
Just like with the so-called God and Adam or laying on the cloud, touching fingers.
Yep. God and Adam touching. That come from this Epicurean doctrine here. Read.
Who lay lolling upon the clouds in ease and indolence, entirely unconcerned about human affairs.
Right. So they just sitting upon clouds, just going about whatever they do.
Just apathetic.
Right.
They also held that in the present state, Pleasure is the chief good.
So they were all about living life. You only live once. YOLO. They were all about living life. Okay, go ahead.
Do as thou wilt.
Do as thou wilt. Read.
And that men are not to expect a resurrection from the dead, or any future state of rewards and punishments.
So their whole thing was, look, yo, you might as well just live life, man. Just bug out. This is it. This is it. What do you have to lose?
Yep.
You might as well smoke this weed. Might as well just sleep around with different women.
That's it.
What do you have to lose? This is it. This is you only get one life. That's their whole thing. You only get one life. Read.
The Stoics.
Now here come the Stoics. Go ahead.
Who were intolerably proud and arrogant.
Now, what I'm showing you is that this is happening during this time. These same philosophies are around today. Mm-hmm. They might have taken a different terminology, a different form, but they still hold the same doctrine. Read.
The Stoics, who were intolerably proud and arrogant.
So the Stoics were now. This is talking about Jake here. This started with with Esau. This is their philosophies and so forth. But this is Jake. That took it to a whole nother level. All right. So it says the Stoics who were what?
Were intolerably proud and arrogant.
Okay.
Held that matter was eternal.
Okay.
God corporeal. And that either God was the soul of the world or the world itself a God.
Read.
They looked upon all things as subject to an irresistible fatality, that virtue was its own sufficient reward, and vice its own sufficient punishment. They fluctuated as to their belief of a future state of rewards and punishments, though they had some expectation of an hereafter, as well as of the conflagration and renovation of the world.
Right. So it says they looked upon all things as subject to an irresistible fatality. Everything was just going to die. It was irresistible that everything was going to die. All right. And it says that virtue was its own sufficient reward and vice its own sufficient punishment. So whatever route you took, you was likely to either receive a reward or receive punishment. So if you had virtue, you was going to get reward. You was going to be rewarded for your virtue. But if you took the route of vice, you was going to get a sufficient punishment for that. But you was going to die. But it was an irresistible fatality. All right.
Depressing.
Yeah, depressing. So this is two of the philosophers that Paul dealt with. Now go back to Acts 17. With 17 and 18.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 18. Then certain philosophers of the Epicureans and of the Stoics encountered him, and some said, What will this babbler say? Some, he seemeth to be a setter forth of strange gods, because he preached unto them Jesus and the resurrection.
So they looked at Paul as though he was the one that was worshiping a strange god. Not knowing they were the ones worshiping some, I don't know what they did. This is nonsense what they was worshiping, what our people was into. But they looked at Paul like he was crazy, just like our people look at us as weak. If we, when we on the street, they look at us crazy.
Spectacle.
Yeah, spectacle when we bringing out the scriptures. All right. From there, give me Colossians 2 and 8.
Is the book of Colossians, chapter 2, verse 8. Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy.
Through what?
Through philosophy.
Through philosophy. Go ahead.
And vain deceit.
And lies. Through philosophy and lies. Go ahead.
After the tradition of men.
Why? Because philosophy is made up from men. Philosophy comes from traditional of men. You can take this page down. Put me back up. Philosophy comes from men. That's why it's saying the tradition of men, because that's where it comes from. All right? The Stoics, the Epicureans, all that was made up from man. Read it again.
Beware lest any man spoil you.
So Paul is giving us a warning. Look, beware lest any man spoil you, destroy you. That's the word spoil here means destroy. Go ahead.
Through philosophy and vain deceit.
Through philosophy and lies. Read.
After the tradition of men.
Easter is a tradition of men. Okay, you got Christmas. That's a tradition of men. All right. New Year's is a tradition of men. Thanksgiving, a tradition of men. Valentine's Day, a tradition of men. Read.
After the rudiments of the world.
Why? Because they're all after the rudiments of the world. All these traditions, all these made-up traditions are after the rudiments of the world. They are not after Christ. You're going to say it, right? Go ahead, read.
Yeah, and not after Christ.
And not after Christ, all right? So that's why Paul was warning us, because he dealt with those philosophers, man. Because Paul is saying that for a reason. During that time period, there was a lot of different sects that was around, a lot of different philosophy that was going on, just like there is today. So he letting you know, don't get caught up, because our people got a itching ear to hear whatever.
Yep.
We want to hear whatever sounds good. You know, so we have that itching ear. I've heard brothers say, "Look, man, I'm willing to hear whatever, man." You know, I'm prone to hearing whatever. I give ear to whoever. If they talking good, I give ear to them. That's why Paul is warning us here in the Colossians 2:8. Beware of that thing. Don't be giving ear to every itching doctrine and so forth and so on. Don't give ear to that. All right?
Right, because I was going to say, even on Clubhouse, that's exactly what happened. There was a random room, and one of our brothers, this is in the beginning when we first was getting on, trying to evangelize to our brothers out there and sisters on there. And the Clubhouse room, it was straight confusion, Egyptology, Islam, everything was on there. But one of our brothers, he started bringing out Deuteronomy 28. And then next thing you know, the moderator, he wasn't moderating anything. He just was like, I want to hear everything. So after
that nonsense?
Yeah, after Deuteronomy 28 came out, he's like, where's the Islam at? I want to bring them up too. Where's the 5% at? I want to bring them up too. They think that it's an actual, they think that it's going to open their mind when it actually brings nothing but confusion.
Hey, that's what Paul was dealing with the philosophers. That's what he was dealing with. What the officer just explained is what Paul was dealing with in Athens. Okay, they were all the different sects, the Epicureans, the Stoics. They looked at him like he was crazy. They called him a babbler. Like, look, this dude is running his mouth. Okay, but they wasn't even saying nothing because look, they already had in their head that they were right. They had the right doctrine. Mm-hmm. They had the right philosophy. So now Paul come with something. Paul coming with, Paul got he on point. Okay, well, what he's saying, and now they looking at him like, man, get out of here with that, man. That ain't true.
Right.
We got the real, we got the real doctrine over here. We know what we talking about. Okay, that they learned from the white man. All right, from there. Let's drop that. Let's get give me the next page. Christian Church, the scribes. So we're going to jump into the scribes and the Pharisees, which was also a known sect around that time. That's it? Nah, it's the same. Nah, man. He took more pages. Go into the file. Bro, you took the pages. I was with you. Talk, man.
Yeah, so Israel, just make sure you're taking notes. Make sure you understand the heaviness that's being brought out concerning the correlation of the previous captivity, all of us in the past that you read, especially in the book of Acts, especially a lot of these is coming out the book of Acts, that you saw what our righteous forefathers were dealing with, and you see what we're dealing with out in the streets. The same exact thing, the same spirits, as Solomon said, nothing new under the sun.
Right. Okay, so yeah, this is the page. We can hold on to this one. Go down to Read that first one. I think it's called the
Peripatetics.
Yeah, they were pathetic. The pathetics. The pathetics. So read that, because this is all the different philosophers that were during the time of the birth of Christ. All right, that was around. Read that.
The Peripatetics belong to the other class of philosophers, for they acknowledge the existence of a God and the obligations of morality. Yet their tenets were not much calculated to inspire a reverence for the one.
Their tenets mean their doctrine, all right, their philosophy. Go ahead.
Or a love for the other. The doctrine which Aristotle, their great master...
You see that? All of them, listen, all of them learned from Aristotle, and they all just broke off.
Yep.
That's all that happened.
Dang.
They all learned from Aristotle, and they broke off, okay, into different sects from Aristotle. Now, listen, I have a book. Do I have a book on that? Yes, I have a book where Aristotle and Socrates, guess who they learned from? Guess who they took their doctrine from? Us. They got it from Moses. So the stuff that they learning, and then all they did is just switched it all up and made some nonsense. That's all they did, because they really idolaters. They don't believe in the Most High. But they got their wisdom and so forth. They got it from us. They got it from the Bible. They all went back to the Bible. All right, go ahead.
The doctrine which Aristotle, their great master, taught gave to the deity an influence not much beyond that of the moving principle in a piece of machinery. Damn, what the hell?
He's a machine, huh?
He indeed considered him to be of an highly refined and exalted nature, happy in the contemplation of himself, but entirely unconscious of what was passing here below, confined from all eternity to the celestial world and instigating the operations of nature, rather from necessity than from volition or choice. In a deity of this description, differing but little from the God of the Epicureans, there surely was nothing that could reasonably excite either love, respect, or fear.
Right, so they was worshiping some nonsense. It's crazy. Go ahead.
It is difficult to ascertain precisely what were the sentiments of this class of philosophers.
Right, because you don't... It's nonsense. It's just some combobulated... Confusion. Go ahead.
Respecting the immorality of the soul. But it may fairly be asked, could the interest of religion or morality be in any shape effectually promoted by teachers like these, who denied the superintendence of divine providence and insinuated in no very obscure terms a disbelief of the soul's future existence?
So they were atheists. They were pretty much atheists. All right, go to the Stoics. We just, who they were?
The Stoics assigned to the deity somewhat more of a majesty and influence than the disciples of Aristotle. They did not limit his functions merely to the regulating of the clouds and the numbering of the stars, but conceived him to animate every part of the universe with his presence in the nature of a subtle, active, penetrating fire. They regarded his connection with matter, however, as the effect of necessity.
So check this out. The Stoics believed, all these different philosophers, they believed in a God, right? They believed in a God, but they believed that he had nothing to do with the world, right? So they believed in him that he dealt with just the universe and just matter and so forth, but he ain't deal with people. That's how they was that's what the philosophy entailed, that he didn't really deal with people like that. He just dealt with matter. He just dealt with matter. He just dealt with the universe. Go ahead.
They regarded his connection with matter, however, as the effect of necessity, and supposed his will to be subordinate to the immutable decrees of fate. Hence, it was impossible for him to be considered as the author either of rewards to the virtuous or of punishment to the wicked.
You see that? Go ahead.
The Stoics denied the immortality of the soul, and thus deprived mankind of the strongest motive to a wise and virtuous course of life.
So they believe, look, once you die, that's it. That's what the Stoics believe. Look, that's it. There was no type of immortality or nothing. You just die, you gone. Go ahead.
Blackout.
Yeah, right, blackout.
In short, the moral discipline of the Stoics may be compared to a body of a fair and imposing external appearance, but which, on closer examination, is found destitute of those essential parts, which alone can give it their energy or excellence.
Right. So you have I can't even say the first group of philosophers, the pathetics. The pathetics. You got the pathetics, you got the Stoics. Now you have the Platonists. Yeah, the Platonists.
The Platonists?
The Platonists. The Platonists. Read that. So this is another different sect of philosophers. So what I'm doing, I'm just going through all the different philosophers that was out during that time period. All right, go ahead.
The Platonists seem, of all the Grecian philosophers, to have made the highest advances in knowledge and the nearest approach to true wisdom. Yet the system of Plato had its defects.
Wait, so that's why they call the Platonists. They came from Plato.
Right.
So remember, you had Plato, you had Aristotle, you had Socrates at that time.
And Galileo.
And Galileo. Those were all of these different sects of Greek philosophers came from those teachings of Plato, Socrates, Galileo, and Aristotle. Okay, go ahead.
He considered the deity as supreme governor of the universe, a being of the highest wisdom and power, and totally unconnected with a material substance. The souls of men he conceived to proceed from this preeminent source, and, as partaking of its nature, to be incapable of death. His system gave the strongest encouragement to virtue, and equally discountenanced vice, by holding out to mortals the prospect of a future state of rewards and punishments.
Right. Okay, so it says this notion, where were you at?
I just finished rewards and punishments.
Okay, go ahead.
Yet, after all, his notions of the deity were very contracted, since he never ascribes to him the attributes of infinity, immensity, ubiquity, omnipotence, omniscience, but supposes him to be confined within certain limits, and that the direction of human affairs was committed to a class of inferior spiritual agents, whom he termed demons.
Whom he termed demons. All right. So I'm just giving y'all a little history on the different philosophers, the Greek philosophers that was out during that time that we were into, that Paul was coming up against on the streets. All right. Drop that. Let me get the next page with the scribes and the Pharisees. I'm trying to find the page, the book where it says that they learned from us. I think I have it. Let's see.
Some heavy stuff, man.
Yeah, man, because, hey, like I said, the history parallels with what's going on today. Same philosophers. Like I said, it's under different terminologies, but it's still the same doctrine.
I'm mad I was learning about this stuff in college.
You see that? Levi, man.
Hey, I'm of a liberal education like Paul.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
They got the next page up.
All right. I'll have to find that later. All right. Read that for me. All right. So this is going into the different sects that was out in our homeland when we was in Jerusalem. All right. Around the time of the birth of Christ, a little bit before and around the time that Christ was born. All right. Go ahead. Read that.
The Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes, the three most powerful of the Jewish sects, were cordially united in sentiment respecting all those fundamental points which constituted the basis of the Jewish religion. All of them, for instance, rejected with detestation the notion of a plurality of gods, and would acknowledge the existence of but one almighty power.
Right. So we knew that it was only one true God. Go ahead.
Whom they regarded as the creator of the universe and believed to be endowed with the most absolute perfection and goodness. They were equally agreed in the opinion that God has selected the Hebrews from amongst all the other nations of the earth as his peculiar people, and had bound them to himself by an unchangeable and everlasting covenant.
Right. Go ahead.
With the same unanimity, they maintain the divine mission of Moses.
So the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes, okay, it says with the same unanimity, they maintain the divine mission of Moses. Go ahead.
That he was the ambassador of heaven, and consequently that the law delivered at Mount Sinai and promulgated by his ministry was of divine original.
Read.
It was also the general belief among them that in the books of the Old Testament were contained ample instructions respecting the way of salvation and eternal happiness, and that whatever principles or duties were inculcated in those writings must be reverently received and implicitly obeyed.
Okay. Now you see why the Pharisees and Sadducees were acting the way they were acting. No, you must follow the law of Moses. You must keep the law of Moses. They was always talking about Moses.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Gotta have a fanaticism about it.
Right. Yeah. Right. It was a fanaticism about the Moses. Go ahead.
But an almost irreconcilable difference of opinion and the most vehement disputes prevailed among them.
Wait a minute. So after all of that, they have vehement disputes that prevailed amongst them. This is niggas.
They can't get it together. Irreconcilable. Damn.
You would think we have the same viewpoint on the scriptures, but they were different but they had different viewpoints to the point that it was irreconcilable. They couldn't come together. They couldn't come together, and they had difference of opinions. Sounds like today.
Yep.
It sounds like today, man. Read it again.
But an almost irreconcilable difference of opinion and the most vehement disputes.
I'm talking about, they said the most vehement disputes on the YouTubes.
Yep.
Sitting behind the computers.
Yep.
Going in. The most vehement disputes. Go ahead.
Prevailed among them.
And this is what prevailed amongst them. Go ahead.
Respecting the original source or fountain from whence all religion was to be deduced. Both the Sadducees and Essenes rejected with disdain the oral law, to which the Pharisees, however, paid the greatest deference.
Whoa. The Sadducees and the Essenes, they didn't care about the oral law. Okay? So they didn't care about the law of Moses. To which the Pharisees, however, they paid the greatest deference to that thing. Go ahead.
And the interpretation of the written law yielded still further ground for acrimonious.
Hold on. Read from but an almost irreconcilable.
But an almost irreconcilable difference of opinion and the most vehement disputes prevailed among them, respecting the original source or fountain from whence all religion was to be deduced. Both the Sadducees and Essenes rejected with disdain the oral law.
So they rejected with hatred the oral law. Go ahead.
To which the Pharisees, however, paid the greatest deference.
Read.
And the interpretation of the written law yielded still further ground for acrimonious contention.
So they were still arguing about the law of Moses, man. Regardless of what was written, they still had disputes and contentions about the law of Moses. About keeping the laws, period. Because they were wicked as hell.
Right.
Read.
The Pharisees maintained that the law was committed to writing by Moses And likewise, every other part of the sacred volume had a twofold sense or meaning, the one plain and obvious to every reader, the other abstruse and mystical.
Right. So the dark sayings and so forth, the parables.
Right.
All right. You know how we always say precept is twofold,
Double in meaning.
double meaning. So that's what the Pharisees. That's what it's going into. Go ahead.
The Sadducees, on the contrary, would admit of nothing beyond a simple interpretation of the words, according to their strict literal sense.
Right. So that goes in. How did Christians say it? Your exegesis, your exegesis. This is they just say, look, it whatever is said is what it said.
Yeah. So a snake was talking to Eve and Adam.
Right. Right. So they believe that it was an apple there. They believe that.
It was a real snake.
It was a real snake. They believe that thing. All right, read on.
The Essenes, or at least a greater part of them, differing from both of these, considered the words of the law to possess no force or power whatever in themselves, but merely to exhibit the shadows or images of celestial objects, of virtues, and of duties. So much dissension and discord respecting the rule of religion and the sense in which the divine law ought to be understood could not fail to produce a great diversity in the forms of religious worship.
It's crazy. Go back to the Essenes real quick. The Essenes.
The Essenes, or at least a greater part of them, differing from both of these, considered the words of the law to possess no force or power whatever in themselves, but merely to exhibit the shadows or images of celestial objects, of virtues and of duties.
So they didn't believe that there was power in the Bible. They didn't believe that there was any power in the Bible.
Damn.
Let's show them that there is power in the Bible. Give me John 6:63.
This is the book of
So they ain't believe in no prophecies or nothing. Read.
This is the book of John, chapter 6, verse 63. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you.
So Christ said, the words that I speak unto you.
They are spirit.
They are spirit.
And they are life.
And they are life. They are spirit and they are life. Where are the words that Christ speaks to us? They come straight out of his Bible right here. That's where they come from. So there is power. There is force in these scriptures.
They come to life.
They come to life. All right? So, but the Essenes, they didn't believe that. Okay? So it said the Essenes, or at least the greater part of them, differing from both of these, considered the words of the law to possess no force or power. So they believe there was no spirit in the laws. Right. Okay? They believe that there was no type of give me Romans 7 and 12. 7:14.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 7, verse 14.
Read.
For we know that the law is spiritual.
For we know that the laws is spiritual. Okay, there's a cause and effect. All right. For example, we know that if women are in pants,
right,
it puts a spirit on them.
Right.
That's the reason why the Most High put that law there. Do not cross-dress. Women not to wear pants, okay, and men not to wear dresses. It puts a spirit on them. There's a cause and an effect. Read it again.
For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin.
Right. Okay, so, but like I said, the Essenes, they didn't believe that thing. They didn't believe that the laws had any force, anything in them. All right. Go back. Now, go down now to the Pharisees. This is what I wanted. I know we read a lot, so just bear with us, Israel. The Pharisees.
The Pharisees, in point of number, riches, authority, and influence.
So the Pharisees the Pharisees, they were them dudes at that time. In point of number, riches. So it was more the Pharisees than any of the other sects. Everybody wanted to be a Pharisee. Okay. Just like during the 60s, everybody wanted to be in Islam. Because that was the movement at that time.
It's what was popping.
It's what was popping at that time. Just like right here, it's what was popping at this time? The Pharisees. So read it again.
The Pharisees, in point of number, riches, authority, and influence, took precedence of all the Jewish sects.
So Paul was a Pharisee. Go ahead.
And as they constantly manifested an extraordinary display of religion, in an apparent zeal for the cultivation of piety and brotherly love.
Wait. So it says, and as they constantly manifested, as they constantly showed an extraordinary display of religion, in an apparent zeal for the cultivation of piety, meaning religion, okay, and brotherly love. Okay, read on.
And by an affectation of superior sanctity in their opinions, manners, and dress, the influence which they possessed over the minds of the people was unbounded.
Damn.
Insomuch that they may be almost said to have given whatever direction they pleased to public affairs.
Read.
It is unquestionable, however, that the religion of the Pharisees was, for the most part, founded in consummate hypocrisy.
There you go. After all of that was BS. They were not in the cultivation of piety and brotherly love. They didn't give a damn about that.
That's right.
That was hypocrisy. But that's the way they showed themselves to be. And Christ speaks of that. Give me Matthew 23.
Yep. It's a bunch of verses. Which one you want to go to?
Oh, verse 1. I'm sorry.
Matthew chapter 23, verse 1.
The one he said they outwardly and they show themselves outwardly.
Let's go to.
I'm talking about.
He says it the same way a bunch of times. I gotta read it down. Outwardly, inwardly, make the cups, right?
Yeah, right. And they're like graves or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Swallow at a net, hypocrisy, beautiful outward, moans. Yep, verse 25. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 23, verse 25.
Read.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees.
So destruction to you, scribes and Pharisees. Read.
Hypocrites.
For
ye make clean.
Wait a minute. Hypocrites, meaning they show themselves with extraordinary display of religion. They show themselves like that outwardly, but constantly in piety and brotherly love. They seem to have that brotherly love towards their brethren. They seem to have that extraordinary display of religion. Go ahead, read.
For ye make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess.
You see that? Outside, they look good. They got the phylacteries. They got the bad garments blowing in the wind. But inwardly, they what?
But within they are full of extortion and excess.
Read.
Thou blind Pharisee, cleanse first that which is within the cup and platter, that the outside of them may be clean also. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees.
So Christ said again, destruction to you, scribes and Pharisees. Read.
Hypocrites.
Go ahead.
For ye are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward.
Christ insulting them bad. Read that part again.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones.
Damn.
And of all uncleanness.
Right, full of dead men's bones. Okay, that's because outside they look good. They look good. That's what we're reading about. They look good on the outside, man. But inside, they was full of sin, hypocrites.
I was going to say, verse 28.
Read verse 28.
Verse 28, even so, ye also outwardly appear righteous unto men.
There you go. Read on.
But within, ye are full of hypocrisy and iniquity.
Damn. All right, so that's what we're reading about with the Pharisees, all right? Go ahead, read on. Go back to the page.
Cut to the white meat. The Pharisees, in point of number, riches, authority, and influence, took precedence of all the Jewish sects. And as they constantly manifested an extraordinary display of religion and an apparent zeal for the cultivation of piety and brotherly love, and by an affectation of superior sanctity in their opinions, manners, and dress, the influence which they possessed over the minds of the people was unbounded, insomuch that they may be almost said to have given whatever direction they pleased to public affairs.
Right. So the people loved them. The people looked up to them. Mm-hmm. They looked up to the Pharisees, man. Go ahead.
It is unquestionable, however, that the religion of the Pharisees was, for the most part, founded in consummate hypocrisy.
And it was. Go ahead.
And that in reality, they were generally the slaves of every vicious appetite, proud, arrogant, and avaricious, consulting only the gratification of their lusts.
Damn. Oh, that part heavy. Read that part again. Read that part. It is unquestionable.
It is unquestionable, however, that the religion of the Pharisees was, for the most part, founded in consummate hypocrisy.
So, go ahead.
And that in reality,
this is who they really was. This is who they really were. Read.
They were generally the slaves.
They were generally the slaves of what?
Of every vicious appetite.
Every demon, spirits that they had on them. That's the vicious appetite. Of what? What's the first spirit?
Proud.
They were proud. They had a proud spirit on them. Go ahead.
Arrogant.
They were arrogant.
And avaricious.
Okay. I don't know what that means. Pull that up for me. Avaricious.
Yeah, let's pull that up.
That's not an ordinary Negro word. Mm-mm. But we definitely know that it's not good.
Yeah, in context.
In the context.
Avaricious.
Listen, what we showing you that what I'm showing you that these different philosophers that was out back then, they're here today. Doing the same thing.
Avaricious. R-I.
Oh man, who got over? Yeah.
You got avarice definition. You got avaricious definition. Go ahead. Click it.
Philly, man. That's why I couldn't say Philly was like Athens.
Oh man, yeah, hell no, not Philly. Uncultured as hell over here. ain't no culture.
How you spell cat again, officer?
Cat. Damn.
Read that, man.
Avaricious is an adjective having or showing an extreme greed for wealth or material gain.
So that's what avarice means. Having or showing extreme greed for wealth or material gain.
It said extreme, though. It's not just a regular
Yeah,
thing.
it's extreme. That's all they was. They was all about the money.
Damn.
They was all about the money and material gain. So they had enough. If they all about money, so they would if they probably was tithing and all of that, taking the money. Yeah. That's what they have to be doing that. Let me get some of the
Oh man, here we go.
Let me get some of the synonyms.
Grasping, acquisitive, covetous, greedy, rapacious, mercenary, materialistic, miserly, mean, money grubbing, money grabbing, grabby.
All right, that's it. So, so it says covetous, greedy, okay, rapacious. All right, these dudes were. Why you think they had the bad garments? Now you see why they had on the bad garment. You see why the people looked up to them. But behind closed doors, this is what they was doing.
And now you see what was driving their hatred against Christ.
Right.
He's literally about to take their sacrifice, take their actual income away.
Probably money laundering. Who knows what they were doing back then? As far as money was concerned. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's go back.
Crazy. I like those synonyms too. It is unquestionable, however, that the religion of the Pharisees, for the most part, founded in consummate hypocrisy, and that in reality they were generally the slaves of every vicious appetite, proud, arrogant.
So they were generally the slaves of every lust of the flesh. Okay, go ahead.
Proud, arrogant, and avaricious.
Materialistic. Go ahead.
Consulting only the gratification of their lust.
That's it. They was all about themselves. They was all about them lust. They was all about their gain. They didn't care about the people. That's why now, like you just said, when Christ stepped on the scene, they was pissed off. They were trying to get rid of Christ because he was going to ruin their party.
Right.
Matter of fact, give me that. Give me John 11:48.
This is the book of John, chapter 11. You want it?
48.
All right, just to the point.
Well, go ahead. Go read up.
John, chapter 11, verse 46. But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees and told them what things Jesus had done. Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees.
Go ahead.
All men will believe on him.
All men. All men is gonna believe on him. Go ahead.
And the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation.
You see that? And Esau, because that's who was ruling at that time, the Romans, would do what? Read it again.
And the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation.
So, wait a minute. Let's connect the dots here. We just read read John 11:48 again, and then we're gonna go back to the page.
John 11, verse 48. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him.
Uh-huh.
And the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation.
Now, go back to the page. It's unquestionable.
It is unquestionable, however, that the religion of the Pharisees was, for the most part, founded in consummate hypocrisy, and that in reality, they were generally the slaves of every vicious appetite.
Go ahead.
Proud, arrogant, and avaricious, consulting only the gratification of their lusts, even at the moment of their professing themselves to be engaged in the service of their Maker.
Damn. Now, remember it said the Romans was going to come and take their place. So Rome was obviously, they had high rank amongst the Romans. Just like, so you had the Herodians, you had the scribes, and you had the Pharisees. Okay, they were all in cahoots with Rome. Why you think they said that Rome would come and take our place? Rome had put them in position.
Right.
Over the people. Rome has set them up over the people. So they getting good money from Rome. They getting the highest. They got the highest position. They getting paid well.
Prestige,
fame. Okay, so now Christ on the scene. He's shutting them down. Yo, we got to do something about this dude.
Publicly. He's shutting them down.
Yeah, he's shutting them down publicly. Putting them on the spot. Like, yo, we got to do something with this dude. Now they going back to council. Don't be surprised. It's happening today.
Yes, sir.
Read.
These odious features in the character of the Pharisees drew upon them the most pointed rebukes from our Lord and Savior.
You see that? Christ was digging in their behind, man. Digging in their behind. Go ahead.
With more severity, indeed, than he bestowed on the Sadducees, who, although they had departed widely from the genuine principles of religion, yet did not impose upon mankind by a pretended sanctity, or devote themselves with insatiable greediness to the acquisition of honors and riches. The Pharisees admitted the immortality of the soul, the resurrection of the body, and of a future state of rewards and punishments.
Right. So it says the Pharisees admitted the immortality of the soul. So they believed in the afterlife. They believed that there was going to be a kingdom. Mm-hmm. The resurrection of the body. Okay. So they knew that we was going to be resurrected. And of a future state of rewards and punishments. So they believed that thing. Go ahead.
They admitted, to a certain extent, the free agency of man. But beyond that, They supposed his actions to be controlled by the decrees of fate. These points of doctrine, however, seem not to have been understood or explained by all the sect in the same way. Neither does it appear that any great pains were taken to define and ascertain them with accuracy and precision, or to support them by reasoning and argument.
Right, or to support them by reasoning or argument. All right, so that's the Pharisees. That's the history on who the Pharisees were. Now let's get into the Sadducees. All right, let's get into the Sadducees, and then we get Acts 23:8 after that.
The Sadducees, if we may credit the testimony of Josephus concerning them, were a sect much inferior in point of number to that of the Pharisees.
So it wasn't that many. It wasn't that many more of the Sadducees than the Pharisees. All right, like we were just reading, the Pharisees were the more popular sect at that time. Go ahead.
But composed entirely of persons distinguished for their opulence and prosperity.
Okay, opulence. Look that up.
Being rich, like living in.
But composed entirely of persons distinguished for their opulence.
Yeah, like living superfluously. Opulence. Opulence.
Right there.
There was a commercial about it. There you go.
Okay. Great wealth or luxuriousness.
Luxuriousness.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow. Luxuriousness.
That thing just look at it. Look at the synonyms.
Get the synonyms.
Luxuriousness, sumptuousness, lavishness, richness, lushness, luxury, luxuriance, splendor, magnificence, grandeur, splendidness, grandiosity.
All right, that's enough. That's enough. Plushness.
Yeah. Affluence. There you go.
Costlessness.
Affluence is a good one. Wealth.
Go back.
It said deep pockets.
Wait, deep. Go back. Go back. Let's put it in the context.
So they were rich too.
Go ahead.
The Sadducees, if we may credit the testimony of Josephus concerning them, were a sect much inferior in point of number to that of the Pharisees, but composed entirely of persons distinguished for their opulence and prosperity.
So they was getting money also.
Right.
Sound like the Christian church. Sound like the pastors that got deep pockets.
Prosperity doctrine.
Prosperity doctrines. This is who they were at this time, man. The Pharisees and the Sadducees. They were rich. Get money from who? Why were they so luxurious and so rich? Let's go back to John 11:48 again.
John 11, verse 48. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation.
You see that? So now we understand why they didn't want Christ to, they didn't want Christ, his teachings to get out of hand. Mm-hmm. Because the Romans, they were like, look, the Romans going to come and take away our place, man. We on top right now. We live in luxuries. We getting money. We can't have that. Go ahead.
All that repentance stuff. What is it?
Yeah, he talking all this repentance stuff. He, you know what I mean? What's going on? Go ahead.
He also represents those who belong to it as wholly devoid of the sentiments of benevolence and compassion towards others, whereas the Pharisees, according to him, were ever ready to relieve the wants of the indigent and afflicted. He further describes them as fond of passing their lives in one uninterrupted course of ease and pleasure, insomuch that it was with difficulty they could public function.
They could be prevailed.
They could be prevailed, my fault. Insomuch that it was with difficulty they could be prevailed on to undertake the duties of the magistracy or any other public function.
Damn. So it says he further describes them as fond of passing their lives in one uninterrupted course of ease and pleasure.
Must be nice.
Right. They was already luxuriousness. They already, they had the wealth. Mm-hmm. So that's all they did is sat back and just indulge in whatever lust and pleasure that they, was into. Go ahead.
Their leading tenet was.
Their leading doctrine was.
That all our hopes and fears terminate with the present life.
You see that? Wait a minute. Their leading tenet, their leading doctrine was that all our hopes and fears terminate with the present life. Go ahead.
The soul being involved in one common fate with the body, and, like it, liable to perish and be annihilated.
So they were no different from the Epicureans and the Stoics that believed you only live once. That's why it says that they believed in the that's why it says he further describes them as fond of passing their lives in one uninterrupted course of ease and pleasure. Right. That sound like the Epicureans. That sound like we read about with the Stoics. No different. Where would they get that from? You think they wasn't learning from the Romans? You think they didn't get that doctrine from the Romans? Okay, that's where they got it from, man. And they just mixed it up with our laws and so forth. They just mixed it with the scriptures or whatever. Matter of fact, they ain't mixed nothing with the scriptures. They was just calling themselves. They was just Sadducees by name. They were following something else. All right. Read that. Their leading tenet again.
Their leading tenet was that all our hopes and fears terminate with the present life.
So they were Epicureans. That's who they were. The Sadducees were Epicureans by doctrine. Go ahead.
The soul being involved in one common fate with the body, and, like it, liable to perish and be annihilated.
Right. So that's it for you. You done. Go ahead.
Upon this principle, it was very natural for them to maintain that obedience to the divine law would be rewarded by the Most High with length of days and an abundance of the good things of this life.
Of this life. Go ahead.
Such as honors, distinctions, and riches, whilst the violators of it would, in like manner, find their punishment in the temporary sufferings and afflictions of the present time.
Right. So during the present time, whatever happened to you is because of what you was into. I think that's what it's saying. Most High was length of days and an abundance of the good things in this life. So whatever the Most High, so they believe whatever the Most High blessed you with in this life or whatever, you will have the abundance of it in this present life. So you wasn't gonna get nothing when you they didn't believe that they didn't believe in immortality, pretty much. No. They didn't believe in that. Whatever was gonna happen to you, good or bad, was gonna happen in this present life. And after you die, that's it. You gone. Yep. That's what they believe in. Go ahead.
The Sadducees, therefore, always connected the favor of heaven with a state of worldly prosperity, and could not regard any as virtuous or the friends of heaven, but the fortunate and happy.
Right. Go ahead.
They had no bowels of compassion for the poor and miserable.
Damn. They had no bowels of compassion for the poor and the miserable. Sign these pastors, I'm telling you, man. They have no compassion for the poor and the miserable. All they do is take your money.
That's because you're not tithing. That's why you're poor.
Right. Yeah, right. With these damn prosperity doctrines. But you can't help the one person in your congregation, you can't help them get any groceries.
Nope.
Damn. Go ahead.
They had no bowels of compassion for the poor and the miserable. Their desires and hopes centered in a life of leisure, ease, and voluptuous gratification.
Oh, they was living life. The Sadducees were living life, man. Go ahead.
Plush linen. For such is precisely the character which Josephus gives of them. And indeed, it appears to be countenanced by the inspired writings, especially as if now generally admitted by the learned, our Lord, in the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Luke chapter 16.
All right, let's drop that. Give me Acts 23 and 8. Acts 23 and 8.
Yeah, the disciples come to them talking about Acts 4 and 34. No, we good.
Right. they got to pull themselves up by the bootstrap.
Right. Yep.
That's what they would. That's who the Sadducees were. That's who the Pharisees were. The Pharisees were. That's what they would say. Oh, you poor? Look, man, you better get a job. I mean, you better pull yourself up by the bootstrap. You better do something. I'm good over here. Go ahead.
Acts chapter 23, verse 8. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees.
Like we just read on the page, y'all put us back up. Put us back up. No, I'm talking about us. Put us back up. Oh, all right. Read it again.
Verse 8. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both.
So they had that Epicurean and Stoic doctrine, meaning what? You only live once. YOLO. Okay, so you might as well just live life while you here. This is it. Ain't nothing after this. That was the doctrine. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And
that was it on that?
Yeah.
Okay. And read about the Pharisees again.
Did you want verse 7?
8.
Okay.
What's verse 7 say?
Verse 7 says, and when he had so said, there arose a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the multitude was divided. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both.
But the Pharisees confess both. Okay, so the Pharisees confessed that there was a spirit and there were angels, right? That's what it said.
Yes.
Right. So they confessed both, but the Sadducees, they didn't believe in that.
And resurrection.
And they believed in the resurrection also. Okay, they were just wicked as hell. All right. So let's drop that. Let's get back into the family of the Herodians, and then I'm gonna get ready to end it soon. I don't have much left. Give me Grazel, the Herodians. Remember last week we went over who Herod was. Okay, Herod's wicked as hell. All right, so we went over him, and now the successors. Now we're gonna go through the successors of Herod, who was around during the birth of Christ. Okay, while Christ was on the scene. Okay, so give me that. Give me page 103. Page 103. You got 103 and 104 and 105. Grazel. Come on. Right there. There's 103. Yeah, there you go. So remember, Herod died. All right. So now he had his successors, his sons or whatever, they had to step up. They stepped up, all right, to rule over Judea. All right. Go down. Go down. Right there.
Herod's successors. Augustus decides.
So Augustus Caesar was the emperor at that time. All right. Go ahead.
Herod's will had to be ratified by Rome. 3 separate deputations left Jerusalem to lay their case before Augustus Caesar. Archelaus went to defend Herod's will, just as it read.
Archelaus, the evil bastard right here. I mean, they was all evil, okay? They all oppressed the hell out of us, all right? But this dude, he was evil as hell. Go ahead.
Archelaus went to defend Herod's will, just as it read, because by that will he was appointed king of Judea. Several of his brothers went because, as usual in Herod's family, each disliked the other, and everyone disliked Archelaus.
You see that? Everyone disliked him. Everybody. Go ahead.
A deputation of Jews went too, because they wanted to present the wish of the Jewish people that none of Herod's family be permitted to succeed him. They would rather, they argued, be ruled directly from Rome than have one of the Herodians rule over them.
So we was like, look, man, we wanted the emperor to just directly rule over us instead of having these puppet Edomites they got ruling over us. Okay, go ahead.
The people's deputation obtained little consideration from Augustus. Rome was not interested in what the natives wanted. Its chief interest was in holding them down.
Sound like today.
Damn.
Sound like today. y'all think that Esau and the government and so forth and so on, they're gonna cater to our wants and needs. No, that's not happening.
Right.
That is not happening. Give me Lamentations. Lamentations, was it 2:17 or 4:17?
Lamentations 4. It's the book of Lamentations, chapter 4, verse 17. As for us, our eyes have yet failed for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us.
Right. We watch for a nation that can't save us, and they won't. So like the page says, it says the people's deputation obtained little consideration from Augustus. So everything that we send in petitions, we write petitions to them. Listen, can y'all please get these we don't want the Herodians ruling over us. We would rather y'all rule over us and so forth. So and then it said Rome was not interested in what the natives wanted. They weren't interested in what we wanted. All right? They didn't care about what we wanted. It said his chief interest was in holding us down. That's it.
Right.
Oppressing us.
That's it.
That's all they wanted. Same thing today. That's the interest. To hold us down.
It said the chief interest.
That's the main chief meaning that's the main interest.
Top interest.
Keep these niggas down.
Damn.
Let's lock them up. Get the black man out the household.
War on drugs.
War on drugs. The 3-strike rule.
Right.
All right. Let's give the women WIC, women, infant, and children.
Right.
Welfare. Mm-hmm. But let's keep them down. Let's send stimulus checks out of that to them, cause we're gonna get the money back anyway.
Right.
You know, let's play the role like we doing good by them. Right? Read.
It was clear even to Augustus that Archelaus was not the man to govern Judea. He modified Herod's will slightly. Archelaus was made not king, but ethnarch, prince of Judea, Idumea, and Samaria. Antipas, another son of Herod, was made tetrarch, duke of Galilee, and part of Trans.
Hey, that's how you know that is with Esau. What's going on?
They're going to the next page.
Oh, go back. I want to go back. Go back. Go. I want to read Archelaus was made not king again.
Archelaus was made not king, but ethnarch, prince of Judea, Idumea, and Samaria. Antipas, another son of Herod, was made tetrarch, duke of Galilee, and part of Trans.
So it says Antipas, another son of Herod, was made tetrarch, duke. Tetrarch means duke of Galilee. Who are the dukes? Esau the dukes. They call themselves the dukes. Give me that. Genesis, you know what I want?
Genesis 36.
He just quoted it.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 36. And let's see.
It said dukes. The duke so-and-so.
Yeah, it starts getting.
Duke Eliphaz.
It starts off with that first. Genesis chapter 36, verse 16, 15. These were the dukes of the sons.
These were the what?
The dukes.
Of who?
Of the sons of Esau.
These were the dukes of the sons of Esau. Go ahead.
The sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn son of Esau. Duke Teman.
Duke Teman. Go ahead.
Duke Omar.
Teman was the wise men.
Right.
Go ahead.
Duke Omar.
Duke Omar.
Duke Zepho.
Uh-huh.
Duke Kenaz.
Okay, you could drop that. I just wanted to read the first part. Read 15 again.
These were dukes of the sons of Esau.
So that's what I wanted. These are the dukes of the sons of Esau, letting you know that these were the sons of Esau. He called them the tetrarch means duke. All right. Antipas, another son of Herod, was made Duke of Galilee, tetrarch. All right. Next page.
And part of Transjordania, a third son, Philip, was made tetrarch of another small province, Archelaus the fool. The story of these Herodians is soon told. Archelaus justified all the evil predictions about him. He possessed none of his father's ability. He did not even have the decency to refrain from openly violating Jewish religious sensibilities. After permitting him to rule for 10 years, 4 BCE to 6 BCE, Augustus removed him and sent him into exile in Gaul.
Damn. That's what he get, man. All praises.
All praises.
Go ahead.
His provinces were placed under the direct rule of Roman officials known as procurators.
My man got impeached and sent out. All right. Now, let's go down to the first procurators. Let's go down here. All right.
The first procurators, Rome and Judea.
So procurator is another term for governor, I want to say. Governor. Go ahead.
In the meantime, Judea and Samaria had fallen under the direct rule of Rome.
So now we're under the direct rule of Rome. Go ahead.
Something for which the Jews had asked on several occasions. Now their request.
So look, we got our request now. We under direct rule of Rome. We got our request. Go ahead.
Now their request was granted, and they soon realized that, bad as the Herodians had been, they were easier to get along with than the Romans. Oh, God.
Wait. Read that again. Read it again.
In the meantime, Judea and Samaria had fallen under the direct rule of Rome.
Uh-huh.
Something for which the Jews had asked on several occasions. Now their request was granted, and they soon realized that.
So wait a minute. we got our request granted to us, but now we starting to realize what?
Bad as the Herodians had been, they were easier to get along with than the Romans.
Because the Romans came down much harder. They said, "Oh, y'all want us to rule over you? All right, bet. I got y'all." They came down much harder on us. Huh? Yeah. They came down much harder on us. Go ahead.
Behind the difficulties lay the fact that the Jews completely failed to understand Rome, its aims and its policies.
So we failed to understand that Rome's whole purpose was to keep us down.
Exactly.
We failed to understand that. We thought they would look out for the good of our people. We thought they was going to help us out. We looked for that vain help.
That they were ruling in good faith.
That they ruling in good faith. They gave us stimulus checks.
Right.
Rome gave us stimulus checks. But what was the real
motivation?
No, I'm thinking of another word.
Impetus.
What was the real lost it, but all right. Yes, agenda. What was the real agenda? Yeah. Thank you. What was the real agenda behind the closed doors? Okay, read it again. Now their request.
Now their request was granted, and they soon realized that, bad as the Herodians had been, they were easier to get along with than the Romans.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the difficulties lay the fact that the Jews completely failed to understand Rome, its aims and its policies.
Read.
While the Roman officials who came to rule over the Jews failed just as completely to understand the Jews, their attitude toward life, the strictness of.
So they didn't give a damn to understand where we came from.
Hell no.
They didn't care nothing about that. Go ahead.
The strictness of their moral code and their view of religion. Clashes between the Romans and the Jews were therefore inevitable. Each clash sharpened the differences, serving to convince the Jews that Rome was cruel, greedy, and wicked, and the Romans that the Jews were barbarous, stubborn, and foolish.
Uh-huh.
Each additional year of contact brought bloody conflict nearer.
Damn. Okay, so that's what was going on at that time. All right. Now,
Inevitable race war.
yeah, right, an inevitable race war.
Dang.
So let's get into Pontius Pilate. We all know him, right? He the one that put Christ to death, right?
Pontius Pilate. 6 procurators followed one another in ruling over Judea and Samaria between the year 6, when Archelaus was removed, and the year 41, when another descendant of Herod was placed upon Judea's throne. Each of these procurators had his difficulties and misunderstandings with the Jews.
There was no misunderstanding. They already knew. They ain't give a damn what we was talking about. Go ahead.
Pontius Pilate is a good example, not only because his rule was the longest, 26 Common Era to 36 Common Era, and his difficulties typical of the manner in which Roman and Jew failed to appreciate each other's natures, but also because, through the story of Jesus of Nazareth, his name is generally familiar.
Right, like I said, I know everyone is familiar with Pontius Pilate, okay, because he the one that put Christ on trial, right, by the hand of who? Us.
Yep.
Go ahead. I want to get. Let me see. Oh yeah. Read that. Read that paragraph and the last paragraph. That's what I want. And then I'm gonna close it out. We're gonna get Luke 3:1. And then I'm gonna close it out. Go ahead.
Convinced that the Jews were barbarians who should be taught to accept the civilization of Rome.
So convinced that the Jews. Why you got that cut off? Go up. Right there. Convinced that the Jews were barbarians who should be taught to accept the civilization of Rome. Remember, the Romans called us barbarians. Okay, because why? We wasn't following their way of life.
Right.
We wasn't following their customs, their language. So they called all of us that wasn't following their customs and language barbarians.
That's why they got civilization in quotes. They're
right.
calling us uncivilized.
Right. They called us uncivilized. Go ahead.
Pilate landed in Palestine with the intention of forcing the Jews to abandon what he considered inferior customs.
You see that? They considered us to have the inferior customs.
Oh, God.
Go ahead.
He soon learned that this would not be easy to achieve. His Roman troops came into Jerusalem bearing the effigy of the emperor. Crowds of Jews went out to meet him and besought him to remove the images, since, to their mind, bringing them into the sacred city was contrary to the second commandment.
Right. Go ahead.
Pilate stormed and threatened. He had the unarmed crowd surrounded by soldiers with drawn swords. But the Jews would not move. They would rather die than have their city desecrated.
Damn. Go ahead.
Pilate had to give way.
Read.
Sometime later,
Watch this.
Sometime later, the procurator decided to build an aqueduct.
So now he want to build in our land. Go ahead.
That was certainly a wise measure, for Jerusalem was never sufficiently supplied with water. For this purpose, Pilate decided to use the money from the temple treasury.
So this nigga wanted to use this. I'm sorry, this Edomite wanted to use the money from our temple. Said, "Nah, we're gonna take the money from their temple." Go ahead.
Then money raised by taxation.
Then the money that's raised by taxes. Go ahead.
To the Jews, the treasury of the temple was sacred. The money collected there could not be used for profane purposes, such as civic improvements.
Right, go ahead.
The Jews gathered.
Listen to this.
The Jews gathered in crowds and voiced loud protests.
Sound familiar? Yo, this is our people, man. We always protesting. Go ahead.
Pilate sent soldiers disguised.
Oh, listen to this part.
Pilate sent soldiers disguised in civilian dress to mingle with the crowd.
Damn. Hey, didn't they do that with George Floyd?
Yep.
Didn't they send civilians mingle with the crowds out there? And we was pissed off about that thing. They did the same thing here back then. The Jews gathered it when we went out and protest, when we gathered in crowds and protests with our signs and so forth, they sent soldiers disguised in civilian dress to mingle with the crowd. Read on.
At a given signal, they fell upon the multitude and clubbed many to death.
You see that? Look, man, there's nothing new under the sun, man.
Hell
Same
no.
thing. This is our people, man.
Yep.
All right? We was going through the same thing then like we're going through now. All right? All right, so with that being said, give me Luke 3 and 1. I'm going to close it out.
That's crazy. This is the book of Luke, chapter 3, verse 1. Now in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar.
So Tiberius Caesar, okay, that's the he came after Augustus. Go ahead.
Pontius Pilate being governor of Judea, and Herod being tetrarch of Galilee.
So that was that Antipas or Philip? I think it was Antipas. That was Antipas, I believe. Go ahead.
And his brother Philip, tetrarch of Iturea, and of the region of Trachonitis, and Lysanias, the tetrarch of Abilene. Annas and Caiaphas being the high priests.
Oh, okay. So I thought I said Archelaus too, but yeah. So that's who we was just reading about. All right, the history on the tetrarchs and the governors and the procurators at that time,
And dukes.
and the dukes. All right. So with that, I'm gonna end it. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna close it out there. So next, well, Lord's will, I think Cap probably be back next week to continue off with the Indian slave trade.
No, it's Passover. He's going to be out.
No, next, yeah, he will be back next Monday. That's right.
Yeah.
So,
So we're going to be.
yeah, so I'll most likely be back on Lord's will. So we will continue with the Roman captivity. All right, so we're going to get into what things was like when Christ was on the scene now. All right. What things were like with Christ and the apostles was on the scene. All right. With that, I'm going to say shalom.
Shalom.
Messiah's philosophy, living as martyrs, fighting calamity. One time be the martyrs, be the righteous sons and daughters. Inna the air, put your one inna the air. 3 times be the martyrs, be the righteous sons and daughters. Inna the air, put your one inna the air.
It's fairly odd, we never learned of our foreparents. We learned of demons fronting like they so is transparent. My heroes is Nat Turner and Gabe Prosser. They war with the devil, and Frederick Douglass was a scholar. John Toussaint put bullets in the Frenchmen. Geronimo and them Indians was putting bricks in like my forefathers in Egypt and Moses with the staff. Make cash and gold if you messing with the calf. 9 violent movements and still get shot with pistol rounds. The will of evil weighs more than 7 pounds. Shotguns and snipers took 2 great leaders down. Recycle guns in streets pointed at me now. Greco-Roman and Cohen wanna see me broken, invade my dome with shoulders until the soul is stolen. I cash dreams, got a halo.